Siddhis. Welcome to the second session of the lesson Discovering Tut, the Saga Continues, written by A.R. Williams from the textbook Hornbill prescribed for CBSE Plus 1 students. In the last class, we have learnt about King Tut or Tutankhamun and the discovery of the Tut's tomb by Howard Carter, an archaeologist in 1922. King Tut was the 13th pharaoh of Egypt. He ruled Egypt for 10 years and he died at the age of 19 years old. He was barely known to the modern world until 1922, since Howard Carter found out his tomb, which was remained sealed for more than 3,200 years. So Howard Carter, after finding out the tomb, the people began asking about what was the reason behind the untimely death of King Tut. The discovery of Tut's tomb by Howard Carter in 1922 is considered the most important archaeological findings of the century. On January 5, 2005, King Tut's mummy glided headfirst into a CT scanner to probe the medical mystery surrounding him. An angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils and dark clouds moved into the sky all day. These were thought to be the indications of the pharaoh's curse. Death or misfortune would fall upon those who disturbed him. So they had taken the Tut's mummy from the tomb for a CT scan. At the time, strong winds stirred up. It shows that nature itself was against taking the Tut's mummy from the tomb. And when after taking the Tut's mummy from the tomb, several visitors came over there to pay respect to Tut's mummy. Some were simply standing there, reading the guidebooks. Some were looking at the murals of the chambers, and some were standing without talking anything because they thought that if they talk anything, the curse would befall on them, because it was the belief that if they talk something near the Tut's mummy or near the Egyptian mummy, it would badly affect them. The mummy is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in the 1920s, said Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body for a long first look. So Howard Carter and his men only found out the tomb of Tut. The CT scan was done 80 years after the discovery of the King Tut's tomb. So Zahi Hawass told that when they were taken the Tut's mummy for the CT scan, he told that the mummy was in a very bad condition because of what Carter and his men had done to the Tut's mummy. Howard Carter, the British archaeologist, in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. After so many years of futile searching only, they could find the tomb of Tut. It contains, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, was surprisingly complete. And earlier I told you that the King Tut was laid to rest in the Valley of Kings. That place was a remote place where almost all the Egyptian pharaohs were buried. Why did they choose such a remote place? Means they were afraid of the thieves. All the Egyptian pharaohs, when they were buried, and also when they were buried in that chamber, along with them, so many golds and artifacts and all the things needed for their afterlife was also buried. So they were afraid of the thieves and they were buried in a very remote place called the Valley of Kings. Though hastily ransacked in antiquity, was surprisingly complete. Even though robbers tried to rob so many things, when they opened the tomb, they could find so many golds and artifacts inside the tomb. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. And these treasures were considered to be the richest royal collection ever found with an Egyptian mummy. Stunning artifacts in gold, their eternal brilliance meant to guarantee resurrection, because the Egyptian believed in life after death. And it was believed that the dead pharaohs need all these things in their afterlife also. So they buried all these things along with the pharaoh. Tut was buried with everyday things he would want in the afterlife: board games, bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine. So many things. What are the things here refers here? board games, a bronze razor, undergarments, cases of food, and while all the things he needed for his afterlife also all were kept in his burial chamber. Now moving to the next answer. After months of carefully recording the pharaoh's funerary treasures, Carter began investigating his 3 nested coffins. Opening first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers. After months of carefully recording the pharaoh's funerary treasures, so he had taken so many months in order to reach the coffin of King Tut. So after so many years of futile searching, at last he had reached the King Tut's coffin. So how many coffins he had seen? 3 nested coffins. Opening the first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers. So in the first coffin, he had seen all these things. Now we move on to the second one. And it shows that the faded evidence of a burial, and it shows all these things were faded. It shows that that burial took place in March or April. When he finally reached the mummy, though he ran into trouble, but finally he reached the third coffin, but there he ran into trouble. And let us see what was the trouble. The ritual resins had hardened, cemented Tut to the bottom of his solid gold coffin. Ritual resins. Here resins refer to a sticky substance that is used to cement the Tut's mummy in the coffin. It becomes very hard. So it was very hard for Carter and his men to remove the Tut's body from the coffin. No amount of legitimate force could move them. Carter wrote later what was to be done. So Carter was thinking what he should do in order to remove Tut's mummy from the coffin. Now, moving on to the next answer. The sun can beat down like a hammer this far south in Egypt, and Carter tried to use it to loosen the resin. So, what did Carter do? Carter had taken the Tut's mummy and kept it in the blazing sun so that it heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing budged. Nothing budged refers to nothing removed. It was not possible for them to remove it from the tomb. He reported with scientific detachment that consolidated material had to be chiseled away from beneath the limbs and trunk before it was possible to raise the king's remains. So, in order to separate Tut's mummy from the coffin, he had to cut limb by limb of Tut's mummy so that he was able to take it out from the coffin. In his defense, Carter really had little choice, and Carter told that he had no other choice because if he would not have done what happened, that thieves would have been stolen almost all the gold and artifacts inside the burial chamber. If he had not cut the mummy free, thieves most certainly would have circumvented the guards and ripped it apart to remove the gold. If he had not done in such a way, the thieves would have circumvented. Circumvented here refers to the cheated, or they give bribe to the guards, and they might have looted away all the gold and artifacts that kept inside the burial chamber. In Tut's time, the royals were fabulously wealthy, and they thought or hoped they could take the riches with them for his journey to the great beyond. That means during the Tut's time, the Egyptians, they were very wealthy people, and they thought that these people can take all their wealth along with them after their life. King Tut was lavish with glittering goods, precious collars, inlaid necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, a ceremonial apron, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes, and the new iconic inner coffin and mask, all of pure gold. So many things were inside the burial chamber of King Tut, all were made of pure gold. To separate Tut from his adornments, Carter's men removed the mummy's head and severed nearly every major joint. So, in order to remove Tut's mummy from the coffin, they had to remove every major joint of Tut's mummy. Once they had finished, they reassembled the remains on a layer of sand in a wooden box. So, after doing all these things, again they reassembled the severed parts, and they kept it in a wooden box with padding that concealed the damage. Padding here refers to soft material, just like a cloth. So since it was cut apart, several damages were caused to Ted's mummy. So in order to conceal all the damage, what did they do? They kept it in a wooden box with padding. In order to conceal the damage, the bed where Ted now rests. So after that, they again kept the Ted's mummy back to its burial chamber. Archaeology has changed substantially in the intervening decades, focusing less on treasure and more on the fascinating details of life and intriguing mysteries of death. Earlier, archaeologists were interested only in knowing the treasures of the world. Now they are more interested to know about the details of life and also the mysteries of life and death. It uses more sophisticated tools, including medical technology. So more sophisticated tools have been used by the archaeologists in order to find out the mysteries behind the life and death. In 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor x-rayed the mummy and revealed a startling fact. Beneath the resin that cakes his chest, his breastbone and front ribs are missing. So after 40 years that Howard Carter found out the tomb of King Tut, another anatomy professor, he found out that he x-rayed the mummy and he found out a very strange fact that his ribs and chest bones are missing. Today, diagnostic imaging can be done with computed tomography or CT, by which hundreds of X-rays in cross-section are put together like slices of bread to create a three-dimensional virtual body. So today, with the help of computed tomography or CT scan, a virtual image, we can make it. It is possible to make a virtual image or a three-dimensional image. What more would a CT scan reveal of Ted than the X-ray, and could it answer two of the biggest questions still lingering about him? So after the CT scan, people thought that they would be getting an answer for the two questions like how did King Ted die and how old was he at the time of his death. So today we have learned 3 stanzas and a quick recap of the stanza of the portion we have learned today. The scanning of Ted's mummy gave an insight as to how mummies were buried. Howard Carter, who scanned the body, found it difficult to extract the mummy. The ritual resins had hardened, thereby cementing Ted to the bottom of his solid gold coffin. Carter finally had to chisel the mummy away, having no other major option. Every major point was severed. Ted was buried with gold, which was meant to guarantee the resurrection, and was also buried with everyday things he would need in his afterlife. He had things to take on his journey to the great beyond: glittering goods, precious collars, necklaces, sandals, all of pure gold. The computer tomography scan could not solve the mysterious death of Ted, but gave us clues for sure. The X-rays and CT scan reveal a startling fact that the breastbone and the ribs not have been possible without technological precision. This fact gives clue that Ted in all likelihood did not die a natural death. So students, we will be learning the remaining stanzas in the next session. So you have to read the textbook, and we will be meeting in the next class. Till then, goodbye.